everybody. I'm Jim Montgomery, and this is Melody in Mind. He's a stallion that I trained, and I'm going to use him to demonstrate today. Mostly what I want to go over today is there's two parts to training a horse. The first part is that you have to train your horse mentally. The second part is you're going to train your horse physically. You have to train each part of that horse's body to respond to you. Horses learn, just like people learn, from repetition, but in an earlier part of this, we'll go over teaching them how to move away from every part of the body and how to use it. What I want to talk about now is how I'm going to take my body control, in other words, the way I use my legs, the way I sit, the way I move forward, the way I move my hand, how I use the bridle to communicate to him what I want him to do, and how I train each part of that horse's body to do that. The first thing that we do when we're training horses is we have to have them supple enough that we can train each part of that horse's body. And by suppling, I mean that I'm going to need to be able to take that horse's face and ask him to yield to my hand, and with a light pressure. You can see there that now he's figured out what I'm going to do. This is a very quick horse, a very responsive horse, so you move very much on him and he's trying to do a lot for you. Once you have that taught, I'm going to walk just out here a little bit more. You walk some circles a little bit and just get him to kind of yield in his body. I'm going to take my leg and put it back here and ask him to yield his hip to the outside. I'm going to ask him to yield his hip on the other side as I take his face. And what I'm working on is each part of this horse's body. So I've asked him to yield his hip and bend and give, and the next thing I'm going to do is ask him to yield a shoulder. To teach him to do that, the first thing I do is just walk a small circle and push his shoulders out. And you can do that both directions. I'll just walk this circle around like this, ask him to yield his shoulders out a few strides like that. Horses guide from their shoulders, not their nose, and so basically what we're trying to do is get control of each part of this horse's body, his shoulders, his rib cage, his hip, and ask each part of that horse's body to yield to pressure. And that takes time to get all of that done, and the reasoning for that is to be able to perform all of the maneuvers without resistance. It takes time to get them to understand that means just step over and move. It takes time to get them to understand that all you're asking them to do when you put your leg back is push their hip in. And so after working with them for a period of time, the reasoning for all of these things is that horses work basically off of a straight line. If you can imagine an imaginary line down the middle of their back, and if you push them off of that line with their shoulders, they're going to go to the left. You push them off that line with their shoulders, then they're going to go to the right. Same thing when you're backing up. Whether you're backing up, if you push the hip off to the right, it's going to go to the right. You push the hip off to the left, it's going to go to the left. So by doing that, you're getting your horse to guide, and you have control of each part of that horse's body. And what I'm trying to do by doing that is I'll be able to show you how each of the maneuvers, lead departures, circles, spins, stops, flying lead changes, all come from that body control. And let me go ahead and I'll do a lead departure now. I'm going to walk to the center, and I'll do it going away from you so that you can see the hip of the horse move to the inside, and then I'll ask the horse to lope off. Okay, now I'll go ahead and lead depart. I'll show you facing you. Pick up, push that hip to the inside. Now, after doing circles, I showed you lead departures, and also showed you a faster circle, a bigger circle, and a smaller circle. What I'll do now is show you a turn. And the first way we start to teach our horses to turn is we're going to just push the shoulder off that center line, get them to step all around and gather themselves up. Let me just step back a little more. There's a turn left. I'll step over on the other side of the stirrup and push his shoulders right. So there's a right turn. And from there, basically, let's talk about teaching the horse to back. And when you teach a horse to back up, basically they back easily if you have them in a straight line. If their body parts are all in a straight line, it's going to be easy for them to back. If they are bent or crooked, when you pull on them, they're going to follow that body part in whichever way they're bent or crooked. So as a way of teaching horses to back straight and to do it better, I control and teach that horse to move his shoulders left as I back, and I'll teach him to move his shoulders back right as I back. I'll do the same thing with the hip. As I'm teaching him to walk forward and push his hip to the inside, I'll also be able to teach him to back up with his hip to the left or his hip to the right. That allows me to be able to straighten him back up so that he can back up straight, and I can take away any chance that he's going to resist and block me with his body to take away any part of the power that I would use, that he has. Anything blocking the bridle with his body, if he's pushing a shoulder out or bracing with his hip, is how horses keep from doing what you ask them to do. So by getting control of each part of that horse's body, you get control of your horse. Next, let me lope some circles. I'll do some more lead departures and circles and a few changes, and then we'll do some stops, and then probably I'll jerk the bridle off of him if he's working good enough, and just show you a little bit bridleless to show you, how much control you can get when you do that. Now we'll go ahead and work on a few stops, and I can do a circle or two and stop in the middle, and then I'll stop down on the end and do some rollbacks. Stops, you have to work on cadence, and you need to work on how the horse's body is approaching the stop. So you have an approach to the stop that you have to work on, the stop itself, and then either out of that stop you generally will be asked to perform a rollback or a backup, and you want to make sure that you do each of those things separately. So I'll lead depart and stop a few times, and then that'll give you an example of that. Oh. Oh. You noticed as he stopped, he didn't lean on my hands. He didn't take my the bit. He just kind of stopped, stayed free in the front end. That's kind of how we'd like him to do. Let me just kind of back up here, and I'll just kind of come along and stop, and then I'm going to I may roll back or Ooh. Ooh. When you get them to where they're real physically broke and they're just working mostly off of how you feel and how your body feels, and getting all the what they call push button horse, when they're really broke, just as a demonstration of this, what I like to do is take the bridle off, let them kind of express themselves, enjoy the maneuvers that they do, and you can see just how willing and happy they are to do what you're asking them to do. And you can see that he enjoys doing it, enjoys using his athletic ability, and getting your horse thoroughly broke all the way through his body, mentally broke to where he's enjoying working for you, becomes an absolute pleasure for both you and your horse. And let me just pull the bridle off, and I'm gonna just take one of these reins off, just guide him with it. Might try one where I just start him out, drop the rein altogether and stop him. I'm going to start him out, run him straight, drop it, and just sit down and stop him. Oh.